Hello NMAR members, I'm Ashley Strauss-Martin, NMAR's General Counsel, and I'm here today to talk with you about two new forms and one revised form that we've released in response to the coronavirus issue. First, we released the new Form 1500 a couple of weeks ago. It is an addendum to the residential purchase agreement. We have slightly modified the form to include inspectors, repair persons, and contractors in the definition of essential parties. We still encourage the buyers to determine the availability of inspectors prior to entering into the purchase agreement. But now, if an inspector, repair person, or contractor is unavailable due to an issue directly related to the coronavirus, it does provide the party with grounds to delay performance and creates an automatic extension of the contract for up to 10 days. We also explain that sometimes a party may not be able to use his or her first choice of inspectors, contractors, or repair persons. In other words, they need to make a good faith effort to find an alternative vendor if their primary choice of vendor is not available. Second, we have released a hold harmless agreement. This hold harmless agreement is intended for the use by brokers for the benefit of the broker and the brokerage. It is not for the benefit of the buyers or sellers or other parties. It is not specific to any particular property, and therefore it can be used for any property. It may be signed by any person who owns, occupies, inspects, or will be present upon the property. So that includes sellers, buyers, tenants, inspectors, appraisers, etc. The agreement talks about the events leading up to the current situation. On March 11th, as a result of the current spread of the coronavirus, the governor issued a proclamation of state of emergency. On March 23rd, the New Mexico Department of Health issued an order which, among other things, prohibited gatherings of more than 5 people, ordered the closings of all businesses not deemed to be essential businesses, and advised New Mexico residents to stay at home unless travel was required for health, safety, or welfare. Real estate services and those services related thereto were deemed essential, and they may continue. However, the issuance of the emergency and order highlights the risk to individuals viewing and inspecting properties and the risk to those who own and occupy properties in allowing others to inspect or otherwise enter their property. This form directs the parties signing the agreement to the CDC and the New Mexico Department of Health websites, which talk about how the people can take precautions to protect themselves against the virus. And lastly, the form provides that the parties signing the agreement will hold the broker and brokerage harmless from any and all claims associated with viewing or inspecting the property owned by others, or in allowing others to enter the property which is occupied by the party signing the agreement. The third form is an addendum that addresses open houses and showings of the property. Again, it explains to the seller the events that led us up to today, including the proclamation of emergency and the public health order. It then has the parties agree that due to the restrictions on mass gatherings, which again is no more than 5 people in any one place at any one time, the open houses are not feasible at this time, and that there will be no physical open houses held until the order is withdrawn or amended. It also explains that nothing in the form prevents or requires the holding of a virtual open house. Paragraph 2 addresses showings of the property and gives either the seller or the broker the option to cease showings of the property. It then goes on to say that if the parties opt to continue to show the property, that the seller will take reasonable precautions to safeguard the seller's property and protect the public against exposure to the possibility of contracting the COVID-19 virus by complying with federal, state, and local directives and guidelines. The seller is directed to 2 websites to assist in learning about those directives. It also places the obligation on the seller to notify the broker in the event that the seller or anyone in the seller's household residing on the property should contract the COVID-19 virus. The amendment also contains a hold harmless clause in which the seller agrees to hold the listing brokerage and its agents and any buyer's brokerage and its agents harmless from all claims for damages arising out of or relating to the emergency or the showing of the property during the emergency. The amendment also explains that any preferences or restrictions upon marketing the property that affect the status of the property in MLS will be subject to MLS rules and regulations, and it gives the parties the ability to extend the listing agreement for any period of time that the seller stops showings of the property. The form explains, in the event that the property is tenant occupied, that tenant's cooperation and adherence to laws is required for any showings to take place. Finally, the addendum gives the broker the right to terminate the listing agreement in the event that the owner's preferences or restrictions makes it impossible for the broker to fulfill the obligations of the listing agreement during the emergency. In the event of termination, any compensation deemed earned under the agreement as of the date of termination shall be due and payable, and the protection period shall begin to run as of the date of termination. Lastly, the forum reminds the parties that they have a duty to act in good faith, that any action taken by a party for the purpose of delay not attributable to a bona fide COVID-19 emergency or taken in bad faith to avoid obligations under the agreement shall constitute a breach of the party's agreement, which will entitle the non-breaching party to seek any and all remedies under the law. For those of you who engage in property management activities or are utilizing the NMAR residential rental agreement for your own personal rentals, please review the second video in the series where I discuss amendments to the property management and residential rental agreements related to the COVID-19 virus. All of these forms are being made available to you today in PDF form for immediate use and will be live in the forms library as quickly as the various vendors can get them posted. Thank you all for tuning in today, and don't forget to visit the coronavirus resources page of nmrealtor.com for up-to-date news on how the pandemic is affecting the real estate industry. Please contact the legal hotline if you have any questions about these forms. Thank you, and be well, NMAR members.